1 billion XRP just walked off exchanges in 3 weeks flat. Gone. Poof. And hey, we scored this incredible sit down with Reese Merrick where he breaks down the whole Ripple and XRP game. Plus, I've got so much more lined up for you today. You've been here before. You know we only bring the good stuff. Everything hot off the press. So let's tear into this thing. Man, this is where it gets juicy. Breaking, XRP exchanges balances just plummeted 1 billion in 3 weeks. That's not a typo, people. 99% of folks scrolling past this have zero idea what they're actually looking at. Glassnode's data is painting this picture where exchange XRP balances, your green line over here, just nosedived way underneath the price structure, that black line, and we have never witnessed this before. She's walking us through this exact visual right in front of you. Green line over here, black line right there, and watch what happens. Green line just crashes straight through that black line. Boom, there it goes. Okay, let me pull this back up top for you. On top of that, over 1 billion XRP has been taken off exchange in the last 3 weeks. That usually happens when institutions accumulate ETF demand, drains liquidity, OTC desk plus dark pools, buy quietly, long-term holders, pull supply off markets, etc. When exchanges run low on available XRP, the market becomes extremely sensitive to buy pressure. Less XRP on exchanges equals higher volatility plus explosive upside risk once buyers step in. We've never seen green balance line fall sharply under the price chart before. This is what a supply crunch looks like before the chart. Man, I am fired up right now. This stuff is absolutely wild. Seriously, major props to Diana for digging into all this, and she's definitely not alone here. Everyone's starting to notice just how much XRP is draining out of these exchanges. Check out what Coin Bureau just posted. $1.3 billion in XRP gone from exchanges in 1 month. XRP reserves fell from $7 billion to $5.7 billion. I mean, wrap your head around that for a minute. If this kind of buying pressure just keeps rolling, what's the landscape going to look like a month from now, 2 months, 3 months down the road? Look, I get it. None of us have a crystal ball for the market or whatever's going to shake out in the economy. Things could get weird and people might panic, flip-flop, whatever. But check this out. The institutions, they're sitting on this enormous wave of pent-up demand. Brad Garlinghouse literally said those exact words. Institutions with pent-up demand that's just been building and building. They're waking up to the reality that their chance to load up on XRP and hold it is happening in this moment. They dragged their feet for another 6 months, maybe 12. That window could slam shut on them. It's basically the same boat as anyone who stumbled onto XRP sometime in the past year and is still hustling to grab more while they can. Here's what institutions are staring at right now. That anxiety you've got, the whole, am I running out of time to nail my targets thing? Guess what? Every single one of these big players is losing sleep over the exact same question, right? This is insane. All right, listen to this. XRP supply on exchanges has dropped through multi-year lows with roughly 1.6 to 2.6 billion XRP left on centralized exchanges versus 3.8 to 3.95 billion just a couple 4 months ago. So think about it. 4 months back, we had somewhere between 3.8 and 3.95 billion sitting there. Jump to right now, we're looking at 1.6 to 2.6 billion. I'm telling you, these levels are absolutely unprecedented. XRP on exchanges. Glassstone and CryptoQuant data shows XRP balances on exchanges has fallen about 45% in 2 months. Analysts note that more than 1 billion XRP left exchanges in roughly the last 3 weeks. On Binance, reserves slid from 3 billion XRP at the start of 2025 to 2.7. So imagine this scenario unfolds. Boom, major XRP news breaks. The retail stampede alone would be absolutely mental. But here's where it gets really spicy. All those hardcore maxis out there, the Ethereum loyalists, the Bitcoin evangelists who've spent years dunking on XRP, telling everyone it's trash, that we're completely insane for believing in it. Picture watching them eat their words and panic buy XRP. Could be BlackRock rolling out their XRP spot ETF, or maybe XRP gets tapped for actual stock market settlement. Either way, you're witnessing a FOMO event that rewrites the playbook, yeah? We're always bracing for black swan disasters, those apocalyptic moments that obliterate crypto portfolios. What I'm describing? That's the mirror image, a FOMO stampede where everything breaks in our favor, right? We don't get those very often. I mean, bring it on. All right, pivoting over here. We're jumping into Reese Merrick's interview. He's on the ground live in Abu Dhabi right now. Take a listen.
Ripple's US dollar-backed stablecoin has also officially been recognized as an accepted fiat-referenced token by Abu Dhabi's Financial Services Regulatory Authority, essentially paving the way for authorized institutions to use it for regulated financial activity within ADGM. Well, let's get more on this. Reese Merrick is here. He is the Managing Director, Middle East and Africa at Ripple, joining me around the desk in Abu Dhabi. Reese, welcome to the program. Good to have you on today.
Hi, Dan. Great to be here.
First and foremost, what does this approval actually allow Ripple to do that you couldn't do before?
I mean, firstly, what this does is it further validates kind of Ripple's value proposition here in the region and a compliance-first approach as it relates to issuing our own stablecoin, RLUSD, the back end of last year. And really what it allows and gives comfort to do is for ADGM licensed entities to be able to utilize RLUSD within their flows, within their operations, which is a great step forward for Ripple, great step forward for the region.
Significant step forward for the region. And as I just mentioned, we have seen Abu Dhabi and the UAE becoming a real hub for digital assets. So the fast track of this approval is something to celebrate. But at the same time as well, I want to understand what it means for the business, because within the stablecoin sector, what we see is USDT, USDC really dominating this industry right now. Of course, both much larger and more widely used. So what differentiates RLUSD from those other major players, and what can your stablecoin do that they can't?
Firstly, if we take a step back, I would say that when we were looking to enter this market, what we wanted to do is come with a compliant regulatory first approach, which is why we went essentially to the gold standard of regulators with the New York Department of Finance, who regulate the issuance of RLUSD the back end of 2024. What it means, though, is, you know, when you look at the stablecoin market, sits at around $300 billion today. You notably kind of pointed out the two that kind of dominate in that space at the moment. But we believe this market is going to be, you know, moving into the trillions. We think it's going to be a, you know, a big market, and there's share for everyone. What I would say is kind of how we're looking to differentiate from a Ripple perspective is we want to be able to be the gold standard for institutions to adopt this stablecoin. We've made a couple of acquisitions this year where RLUSD will play a big role. Treasury, a treasury management solution that essentially sees how Fortune 500 businesses are moving trillions of dollars between their own operations. And I can tell you that since we have you know, made that announcement of acquisition, we're having so much inbound where we're seeing real institutions looking to do the benefits of what RLUSD can provide to their business operations.
Reese just dropped some knowledge, and you're sitting there like, huh? Let me paint the picture for you. Ripple swooped in and acquired Treasury, and now they're basically supercharging it with their own tech stack. The result? Every single corporate client using Treasury can now access their funds in real time anywhere on the globe. And just so we're clear, these aren't small businesses. We're talking Fortune 500 giants here. They've got teams operating on multiple continents, juggling operations in dozens of countries simultaneously. These companies are constantly dealing with a currency nightmare. Dollars here, pounds there, yen over in Asia. Moving all that capital around while trying to keep track of everything, it's a headache. And the cherry on top, they're bleeding money through FX swap charges and transaction fees left and right. But here's where it gets interesting with Ripple in the mix. Suddenly you're getting instant pricing quotes. Those brutal fees cut them down by anywhere from 60 to a whopping 90%. Need to transfer funds? Done in seconds, not days. Oh, and the whole banks are closed on Saturday problem? Yeah, that's history now. Even better, that idle cash sitting in your accounts can actually start generating returns for you. Honestly, the possibilities this unlocks are kind of mind-blowing. You know what's happening right now? The second Ripple grabbed Treasury, it triggered this absolute stampede. Corporations are banging down the door like, yo, we absolutely need what you're selling. Give us that XRP infrastructure. Sign us up for RLUSD because frankly, we're done playing by the old rules. This whole thing we've been talking about for months, It's actually playing out in real time. And the best part? Every company still crawling along with traditional banking rails is watching this unfold and panicking. Let me throw a scenario at you real quick. Imagine two heavyweight corporations, both scrapping for dominance in the exact same industry. Except now, one of them just got handed a superpower. They can beam money across continents in the blink of an eye while spending pocket change compared to the insane fees their competition is stuck paying. Who's walking away with the competitive edge there? Who's got the ammunition to close bigger deals or snatch up clients by showing them, hey, look at this insane payment tech we can offer you now? The answer basically slaps you in the face, doesn't it? What we're witnessing is the total reconstruction of how money moves globally, and payment velocity is about to jump from horse and buggy pace to supersonic speed. The amount of wealth that's going to surge through these pipelines is going to make current numbers look like chump change. And can I just say, the deeper I get into understanding this, the more absolutely stoked I am about where we're headed. Take a listen to this part.
Just on scale, RLUSD has about 1.2 billion in circulation, as I understand it. That's tiny compared to Tether, which has about 120 billion. So how do you compete in a market where scale is everything?
Absolutely. I think Ripple started as a payment institution in terms of providing technology. We've since gone down the licensing route. We were actually earlier this year approved as the first blockchain-enabled payment solution provider in the DFSA, which is great. We've done $95 billion in terms of turnover through our payment product, which utilizes XRP and the XRP ledger. So really, we're looking at how we can solve real-world utility for cross-border payments. And we see RLUSD as a natural step there. We were getting a lot of demand from our customers to make payouts in stablecoins. So naturally, it fits within our current flow. And we do see the scale as it comes on. We look at another acquisition, Hidden Road, now Ripple Prime, who are also in the ADGM. You know, they turn over $3 trillion in prime brokerage. Again, we're looking to incorporate RLUSD into those flows. So we're seeing through our acquisitions, through our existing payment business, that the flow and the scale will come for.
All right, let's do a quick thought experiment. You're now the CEO of a financial institution. You're calling the shots at a bank, and for the first time in a while, you've actually got legitimate alternatives staring you in the face, right? Cast your mind back to the early stablecoin days. What were your options? Essentially, USDT and USDC. That was pretty much the entire menu. Now look, Tether's USDT has been in the game since 2014. I'll give them that. But here's where things get sketchy. Not once have they brought in a Big Four accounting firm to crack open the books and confirm, yes, the money's actually there backing all these tokens. Instead, what they do feels more like watching a street magician at work. They pop up saying, don't worry, we're totally playing by the rules. Except when you peel back the layers, yeah, not exactly, right? The New York Department of Financial Services? Never seen them. Proper US regulatory framework? Nowhere to be found. Operating from overseas isn't an accident. It's strategic. Avoiding independent reserve audits isn't a coincidence either. So here you are, steering a Fortune 500 company, a banking empire, or some multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. Decision time. Are you seriously considering going with USTD when you're surrounded by all these blinking warning signs? And wait, didn't they just receive some kind of credit assessment or rating? What was the story there again? Okay, so check this. They dropped from a 4 down to a 5. S&P just downgraded their stablecoin from 4 to 5. And listen, 5 is as bad as it gets on their scale. People are finally connecting the dots that Tether's probably not going to survive the next 5 or 10 years. Now look, if some wild catastrophe sweeps through crypto and Tether breaks its peg, that's basically curtains for everyone involved. But honestly, I'm going to let the Jay Clavers out there handle all that doomsday theorizing. What I'm really getting at is this. Big institutions and corporate giants want to do business with someone who makes compliance their #1 priority. And that's exactly what Ripple is. Ripple runs their operation completely transparent and by the book. Then you've got Tether over there, making everyone ask the same question. Wait, how exactly are they still functioning? That's genuinely how it feels. Here's what I think happens next. Over the coming years, we're going to witness a major exodus into properly regulated stablecoin, and these sketchy unregulated ones will likely get left in the dust. Listen to this part.
RLUSD as well.
You know, this week at Abu Dhabi Finance Week, we've been having a lot of conversations about the crypto industry and about what's happening with stablecoins. I was at a CNBC CEO roundtable lunch yesterday, and of course, this really dominated the topic on the agenda at that lunch. And I think two things really emerged for me. Number one is there's still a huge lack of understanding about how this industry works and why it exists. And then number two, huge gaps in trust as well, Reese. So what are you doing to address those issues, not just to improve the understanding of the stablecoin industry, but to make sure that people can actually believe in its utility?
I think first and foremost, trust is paramount. And that's why, as I mentioned before, getting approved by the regulator NYDFS certainly cements that trust with other regulators like the ADGM, like the DFSA, to firstly approve RLUSD as a stablecoin to be used within their ecosystems. I think as well, when you look at it, you know, cross-border payments flow, I think 50% of all payments are made in dollars, right? So a lot of those payments, you know, do not actually go to the US. So therefore, it's quite inefficient and slow for payments to be made through the traditional channels. We believe that with the right regulation, with the right coverage and governance, and certainly how we're operating, the trust can be built in order to make and have real utility. And we actually, you mentioned before, every conversation has been dominated around stablecoins. I think that when these large financial institutions, these large corporates start to see the benefits of their business, they're certainly going to see that kind of hockey stick growth here.
What's your message to the global banks and the fintechs then, as they see this industry continuing to evolve? And of course, regulators, the more forward-thinking regulators, also actively looking to ensure that the development of this ecosystem continues to move forward.
Look, I think there's no bank, financial institution, payment entity that is not thinking, talking, or incorporating a stablecoin strategy. And quite frankly, if they're not, they will get left behind. I think that we've certainly seen a lot of interest, not only in the region, globally. You know, the Genius Acts in the US kind of is really kind of allowed and paved the way for some of the largest global financial institutions to kind of play in this space. And I think you'll see a continuation of that.
That was a pretty interesting chat. I mean, trust is the whole narrative you're running with, but then you keep looping back to Tether every few minutes. That's kind of a weird choice, isn't it? Hold up, you do know what Tether actually is, yeah? You're not just getting handed questions from some producer in your ear and rattling them off, are you? Okay, fair enough, my bad. Reese, though, that guy really knows how to handle himself. Super composed, really dialed in. He's overseeing everything Ripple does across Middle East and Africa. And man, Ripple's just got this knack for scooping up genuinely talented professionals. It really stands out too, especially since I basically watch everything that comes out in this industry, right? I've gone through tons of interviews where the non-Ripple stuff has you wincing, like, yeah, buddy, maybe workshop that answer next time. But then anything connected to Ripple? You're watching people who are seriously well-trained and polished in front of cameras. All right, moving on. We've got Coinbase's CEO dropping this gem. Crypto is here to stay. Time to unpack that one. Listen to this.
Is it fair to say the sophistication and the maturity of this market has really reached a more advanced stage now, though? People are more trusting in the tradability of these assets?
100%. And I'd like to think Coinbase has helped move that along a little bit over the last decade, but we're in a much better place. It's regulatory clarity emerging. I mean, the United States government has a strategic Bitcoin reserve now, right? Like, what bigger kind of endorsement might you have of like, this is here to stay? And then the largest financial institutions and fintech companies in the world are all integrating crypto in some way, shape, or form, whether it's stablecoin payments or eventually they'll be raising money on chain, you know, doing corporate debt on chain. So I think at this point, crypto is here to stay, and we'll look back at 2025 as that year where the regulatory clarity finally happened.
Nobody's really bracing themselves for what's around the corner. The moment Trump's team took office, it was like someone hit a giant reset button. All those regulators who used to treat crypto like it was radioactive, suddenly they're rolling out the red carpet. That wasn't just good news, it was game-changing. Then Ripple, Coinbase, and basically everyone who matters decided to throw serious money at politicians who weren't going to kill this industry. They backed candidates on both sides. Didn't matter if you had a red tie or a blue one. The result? 290 winners who actually understand what we're building here. So when Brad Garlinghouse keeps saying we've got momentum on our side, trust me, he means it. But here's my concern. People still aren't connecting the dots on how insane 2026 is shaping up to be. Everything's about to accelerate. If you're sitting on the sidelines thinking you've got time, you don't. Yeah, prices will jump, they'll drop. Some days it'll feel like solving a jigsaw puzzle blindfolded. Look, it's going to hurt sometimes. Other moments, you'll be riding high. But the second we cross into real-world utility territory, all that questioning stops cold. The speculation era ends, the guessing ends. That's when everything kicks into overdrive. And honestly, I'm counting down the days. XRP was designed for this, not retail pumps, not speculation, a clearing asset for high volume finance. Now it's in the hands of Ripple Prime, serving real prime brokerages, flows with RLUSD and XRPL, settlement behind the scenes. This is the move people will study in hindsight. From why didn't I see it to it was right in front of us. Okay, whoever wrote that deserves a medal. That's exactly what's happening right now, just laid out perfectly. Finance Bull's been absolutely crushing it with their content lately. Now, if you're one of those people still glued to X, which, by the way, is basically a fast track to losing your mind, you could burn hours just doom scrolling through everything. But hey, that's my job. I wade through the chaos so your brain doesn't have to. Because believe me, some of the stuff on there is absolutely unhinged. CFTC launches crypto collateral pilot. All right, this one actually matters. This could move the needle in a big way for crypto. Let me break down what's happening. Take a listen to this.
Well, good morning, and thank you so much for having me here on the show. So I think what's really important to understand is that we are doing a limited pilot program that has important guardrails that are in place because we've seen with the events that have happened on offshore exchanges that it's more important than ever that Americans deserve safe U.S. markets under U.S. regulations. So what we've done to structure this pilot program is that if you are using a CFTC broker, which is what are our futures commission merchants, those are registered by us, those are overseen by us and the National Futures Association, which is like FINRA, you will be able to use Bitcoin, Ether, and USDC to collateralize contracts that are denominated in those Bitcoin, Ether, or USDC. And it's basically in-kind collateral, so that's very limited in what you can do. You can't use it instead of cash, for example, but you can use it to collateralize those in-kind contracts. And then we are putting into place enhanced
just to
monitoring.
clarify, it's in-kind, so Bitcoin for Bitcoin, or could it be Bitcoin for Ethereum?
Bitcoin for Bitcoin. So if you're going to settle in Bitcoin, it's denominated in Bitcoin, you can collateralize it with Bitcoin because it's the same way risk. And we have enhanced CFTC monitoring and reporting in place. So for 3 months, we are requiring that we not only get weekly position and asset class reporting, that's on top of the normal reporting that our exchanges do, but we are also asking for a reporting of any significant operational issues relating to that digital asset collateral. So again, this is a safe way to understand the technology, to understand the uses for these assets, but in a controlled way.
So you're probably watching this like, hold on a second, where's XRP on that list? Here's the thing. I'm guessing you need to have some sort of... Look, Bitcoin and Ether have been playing in the spot and futures sandbox way before XRP even showed up. Don't forget, XRP futures, that's only been a thing for roughly 7 months, and spot just launched. Futures kicked off maybe 7-8 months back. Spot's been live for, what, 3 weeks? 4 at most? We literally just walked through the door on this one. My bet is you'll see more currencies join the party once those liquidity pools fill up a bit, once these markets have some actual history behind them. So relax, it's on the way. Now check this out. Banks in the United States have now officially allowed to buy and sell Bitcoin, Ethereum, and cryptocurrency for customers, according to an OCC letter, National Banking Engagement in Riskless Principal Transactions and Crypto Assets. It actually looks like the OCC is rolling out the red carpet for banks to offer, custody, and basically do anything they want with crypto, which could end up being wildly, ridiculously beneficial. Spot ETF funds updated will track a Bitwise Index 1021 shares TOXR, waiting for an announcement on the launch. We're talking potentially any moment now, folks. Look, I'm going to keep you in the loop with everything as it breaks, right here on the channel. So glad you stuck around for this one. Hopefully you got some value out of it. If you're feeling it, hit that like, spread it to your crew. Tell me what you think down below. You know the drill. Honestly, just grateful you're here, you're absorbing this stuff, you're building your knowledge. That actually makes my day. All right, I'll see your face in the next video.